Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about how to avoid overhinging during your backswing. All right guys, so let's talk about how to avoid overhinging during your backswing. Now before we dive in, for those of you who aren't able to come see us for in-person lessons, want to make sure that you're aware of cogornogolf.com, which is our online community, our membership site. It's a community of golfers like you and I looking to get better, take our games to another level. On Cogornogolf.com, you get access to all of the content that we have, all of the videos, the member library, all of the master classes, the quick fix section within the site, the practice section, and most importantly, you get access to our Facebook group where you can post videos of your swing. I give you personalized feedback on what you need to prioritize, how you need to work on those to take your game to the next level. So if you do want to work with me, would love to see you on Cogornogolf.com and join our community. We'll put the link in the description down below. Now let's talk about how to avoid overhinging. And the purpose of this video and what I want to do this video here is it's something that's been coming up a lot within the in-person and the online lessons. And just to kind of clarify, hey, during the backswing, how much hinge do we want in our swing? What is too much hinge? What's not enough hinge? What kind of problems would they cause? And then I'm going to give you a handful, probably 3, 4, 5 drills on how to actually correct them. So let's talk about hinge. Now, in a very simple sense, what I want you to be thinking in terms of building a blueprint for your swing is during the backswing, right, we have to hinge the club some amount to get to the top, okay? Hinge, we'll just define that as the angle between your left arm and the club, right, this angle here. If I hinged, which is to make the club go up vertically, that angle would get more narrow, right? So if I unhinge, it gets wider. If I hinge, it gets more narrow. When I take my address position, there is some amount of angle there. It's not 180, right? So there's some amount of hinge already in the address position. Now, when we go from address to the top, we want to make that angle more narrow. What I want you to think is, from the setup to the top, I want to try and have that angle between my left arm and the club be about 90 degrees. That would be a good stock model. This would be beyond that, right? More narrow, and this would be wider than that. The goal would be at the top, regardless of swing length, to have this at about a 90-degree angle. Now, if you make a backswing and you're perfectly at 90, that's great, you don't have to change anything. But if you are drastically beyond 90, which is the purpose of this video, I want to talk about how to correct that. So first things first, let's say we're trying to get to 90 degrees. If we go past 90, why is that a problem in general? Why is going beyond 90 degrees potentially an issue? And there's a couple main reasons, really 2 of them. The first reason having too much hinge during the backswing can be a problem is if you maintain or add that into the downswing. So when I go up to the top, let's say I'm 90 degrees here, the goal in transition is to be about that same 90-degree angle. If I come down and I'm too narrow at the top and I stay too narrow during my downswing from here, what you'll see from the down the line angle is that the shaft gets very vertical. That would be issue number 1. So the more hinge I have, and if I get too narrow from my downswing, I'm going to be too vertical or steep with my shaft, which I don't want. The second issue is the more that I hinge, the more my left wrist automatically cups. The more I unhinge, the more it automatically flattens out. Now, we hopefully know that a cupped left wrist for us is no good anywhere, and specifically why? Well, when I come down, if I have too much cup and too much hinge, not only does that want to make the shaft more vertical, the more I cut my wrist, it also wants to make my face more open. So having too much hinge would be associated with too steep of a downswing, too narrow, which would be a steep angle of attack, and a club face that would be too open. Now, all of those things you have to make up for at the bottom. So that's really the thing we're going for here and why we don't want to have that in there. What I'd like for you to have is 90 at the top, maintain 90, and then you're losing some of that into impact. So that's what we're working towards here. Now, if you're someone who does overhinge during the backswing, let's talk about some feels and drills to get rid of that. Okay, so some feels and drills for the backswing. Feel number one that I like a lot that I remember seeing from a couple different people, and we have a couple of videos on, is to feel where the thumbs are. The baseline thing here to understand is this: if I take my normal setup position and my thumbs are straight out in front, the more my thumbs go up towards the sky, the more I've added hinge. The more my thumbs go down towards the ground, the less hinge I've had. Okay, so thumbs up, more hinge, thumbs down, less hinge. How do I apply that? If I go back during my backswing and I have too much hinge, my thumbs are gonna be pointed more towards the target. If I wanted to take some of that out, my thumbs would point away from the target. And I'd prefer the thumbs to feel like they point away and kind of up and back 45 degrees. Too much hinge, thumbs at the target, thumbs away from the target is gonna feel like a lot less hinge. And keep in mind this, just like any other swing adjustment, you have to exaggerate the opposite. So if you make a normal swing, let's say you have too much hinge and it doesn't feel like you have too much hinge, right? That's the issue here. To get it from too much hinge to perfect, we'll need to feel like it's just completely unhinged. So the beginning process of this is just gonna be, hey, I'm gonna come up here, I'm gonna feel like I'm actually literally unhinging my wrist, like my thumbs during the entire backswing are pointed up and back behind me. Now this isn't for everyone, this is if you have too much hinge at the top. Where your thumbs are at is where you wanna start. You have to understand, you have to record this, you're gonna have to exaggerate, and you have to feel the opposite of normal. So feel where your thumbs are at, record it, and then exaggerate how much you do that. If you're still over hinging, you might literally feel like your thumbs are like this. I mean, just stupid, like completely unhinged. So that would be feel number one to start with. Let's start with some drills. Okay, feedback drill number one that we like the most, and probably the best way to do this, is with a little training called the swing guide. So if you search online, it's swing guide, little yellow device. Now what happens is you put this device on the middle of the club and it's got a little bracket on the top. And so what happens is when you take your setup, I put this about, I'll say about 40%, just less than halfway up the grip. And you the farther you put it up the grip towards the top, the more it makes you unhinge. The farther down the grip, the more you're able to hinge. So I have it just below middle. So when I take my setup, it's off of my left wrist. When I go back, once I hinge, probably to the point of about here, so it doesn't even allow me to get to 90 is where I have it set because I want to exaggerate. Once I feel this hit my left wrist, that's my sign that I'm done with my hinge, and then I can hit from there. For those of you that hinge too much, you're gonna feel like, wait a minute, that hits me really early, and that's what I'm saying. Yes, now you're done hinging, let your hands keep traveling, but don't add more hinge. You're gonna have to feel just ridiculous, right? It's gonna feel like a Steve Stricker no hinge model. And you can actually hit balls with this on, let your hands keep traveling during the backswing, but once you feel that hit your left wrist, you're done hinging. And what's gonna happen especially too is from there your downswing pattern is gonna change. If you normally hinge too much and get steep, it's gonna feel like the club head's a lot farther behind you. So recommend the swing guide. That'd be a great way to start in terms of feedback. So option number three in terms of feels and drills, we got the thumb feel, right? We have the swing guide feel. We also can use a hanger. You've seen our hanger videos in other videos to kind of add compression. You can also use it for backswing hinge. Hanger goes on the left side of the club, about halfway down, halfway up. Feels a little bit weird when you first grip it. I have this, what I'm looking for is the hook portion of the hanger. It's up in the air in front of me. Now when I make a backswing, watch this. The more I hinge, the more down that hook goes on my arm, to the point where it can go past my forearm. The less I hinge, the more from face on, you can see it above my arm. The more I hinge, it goes below my arm. So when I go back, if I wanted to add hinge, I'd want that hook to ride down my forearm. If I want to take hinge out, I don't want the hook to ride down at all. Same thing, I could hit balls with this. I'm going back, thumbs are behind me, hook never goes down my forearms. This is a really good feedback drill. And same sort of thing. So I can hit balls with that same sensation. There's a really good third way. Let me give you one more feedback drill. Okay, last feedback drill for the hinge during your backswing. Now I have two different objects. I'm going to show you this first with an alignment rod. So what I could do is I put an alignment rod on the side of the club, take my grip on the side, and what you're going to see is where the alignment rod points relative to the ground. I got a double whammy because I got this chipsticks on, but where the alignment rod points in the ground is going to show me hinge. If I unhinge and have less hinge, notice the alignment rod points more towards the ball or the target. If I add more hinge, the alignment rod points behind me. So a lot of these drills you could use to either take hinge out or add hinge, and I could do the same thing with a ball. Now I could do it with the alignment rod and hit. I could have this here, feel like the alignment rod stays pointed at the ball as I go back, and notice that gives me no hinge. And then if I go, and like I said, if it points more behind my foot, that adds hinge. Now the swing, little chipsticks here, if I take that out, I can do the same thing. It's just a little less intensive. I don't have to grip it. Little chipsticks on the side of the club here. When I go back, I want to keep that pointed more at the ball, keep my hands traveling to make my swing go longer, not adding hinge if I overhinge, and I can do the same thing and I can hit some shots with that. And again, when I take this out, I'm gonna have video on, I'm gonna use live viewer, make sure I give myself feedback. I'm gonna feel all those same sort of things, thumb up and back behind me. The club head should feel like it's pointed up and back relative to normal. And if you have too much hinge, those sort of feels in the beginning are probably gonna get you from here to here. You're not even gonna sniff all the way out there. So those are some really good feedback feels, right, in terms of the thumbs, and a couple of feedback drills that will really work if you have too much hinge and get past 90, get too steep or get too cupped. Use these, use video. Hope that makes sense. If you need comments or questions below, leave them down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. If you liked the video, do us a favor, click the like button down below. Click the notification bell. Also, please subscribe if you haven't. Another reminder, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are live here on YouTube for Rapid Fire Golf. We'd love to see you guys there.